Welcome to our Thought for the Week. My name is Alex Sains and I'm one of the assistant curates here in Avon Valley Churches. And this morning I would like to talk to you about how we go about working out what God is saying to us. How do we really know what God wants to say to us? How do we really know what God wants us to do with our lives? How do we really know we're on the right path? Does anyone else lie awake worrying about this, wondering about this? Because let's face it, if we were 100% sure that God was telling us to do something, we wouldn't hesitate, surely, would we? I mean, if our sovereign God said something clearly in black and white, we wouldn't say, let me think about that. Maybe I have a better idea. No, we would listen. Because surely God knows best. And wouldn't it be really cool to be able to say, I am living my life this way because God told me to? The trouble is, I am also slightly intimidated by people who seem so sure of what God wants them to do. You know those people that say, God told me to sell my house, change my job, get a cat. I'm intimidated by them because I'm not sure I could ever say that with so much confidence, but I'm interested in how they are so certain. So how do we do it? How did I get from the position I was in over 3 years ago of saying to Gary, nope, I don't want to get ordained. In fact, I couldn't think of anything worse, to where I am today, freshly ordained and actually pretty happy and excited about it. And if you asked me, do you believe God wanted you to get ordained? I would say, yes, I do believe that. But how? How did I get to that place of believing that is what God wanted me to do with the rest of my life? Well, let me say firstly, I didn't get a phone call, I didn't get a voice in the middle of the night or anything tangible to prove to you that what I am doing is what God wants me to do. But what I would say is that I know because of a series of many, many unremarkable and insignificant events that when added together actually are remarkable and significant. You see, I don't think God often speaks to us in loud, clear voices or with signs that point very clearly this way, Alex. I think he mostly speaks to us in the quiet of the ordinary. And then he asks us to take note of those moments, to talk to him about those ordinary things, to question him, to wrestle with him if necessary, and then to seek the answer in the peace we find in that moment. Because I think if we are aligned with God's will, we do experience peace. Let me tell you about something that happened in my final week leading up to ordination. Now, after a couple of years of all these lovely, unremarkable and insignificant events that made me feel pretty confident that God wanted me to get ordained, I went into that final week in a right wobble. I can almost with hindsight picture God saying, really, Alex, after all this time, all these signs, you have a wobble now? But I did. I even phoned my supervisor 7 days before and said, I'm not sure I can do this, or words to that effect. So what did God do? Did he roll his eyes and feel exasperated with me? Or did he gently give me another sign? Well, of course he did. So it was the Sunday morning, exactly 1 week before my ordination, that I had one of my wobbles. And the question I had going round in my head was, am I really going to be able to be the deacon and the priest I think God wants me to be? So after a bit of wobbling, I decided to take my mind off of my worries and my wobbles and go shoe shopping. Of course I did. Always a good idea. So that is where I found myself on that Sunday afternoon, in a shoe shop in Southampton, choosing some really nice Dr. Martens shoes to get ordained in the next week. And I got chatting to this lovely shop assistant. I ended up telling her why I needed the new shoes. And when she showed a little bit of interest in the fact that I was going to be ordained, I told her some of my story and some of what I felt God was wanting me to do. And you know what? As I spoke, I really felt the presence of God in that shop. And you know what? This girl then opened up to me. You see, she had been rejected by some of her family, and I think she saw in me someone who would accept her and love her for who she is. She then told me that she thought I'd make a wonderful priest. In fact, she said a really cool priest, and that she'd love to stay in touch. And you know what? She did stay in touch. She contacted me through social media, and she told me how much it had meant to her to meet me. And would I mind if maybe one day she came to my church? And I replied to her, I said, do you know what? I needed to meet you too. You gave me the words I needed to hear on that Sunday afternoon. And God knew that. Hers were the words I needed to hear. Not kind words from my supervisor, although if he's watching, thank you so much for those kind words. And not reassuring words from my family, not even words from the Bible. On that Sunday, I needed to meet someone like Ruby, because it is people like Ruby that give me a sense of my true vocation. It's people like Ruby that make me feel alive with God's love for others. It's people like Ruby that make me want to be ordained. And so I did. And here I am. So if I had to sum up what it means to listen to God, I would say, pay attention to the little things, because all those unremarkable and insignificant moments, signs, words can all add up to something pretty amazingly remarkable and significant. And thank God for that. Thank you so much for listening.